Hello, I'm Travis Scholes from LMS, and I'm joined by Rhian Del-Valle from Credas today, who's the Director of Enterprise Partnerships. How are you, Rhian, today?
Very well, thank you. We're here on a sunny day. Let's
Beautiful,
hope
isn't
by
it?
the time this goes out, we've still got the sun.
No, so it's the
But it,
22nd of June today, so we think we've got one more week of sunshine at the very least, actually. So
yeah,
hopefully that continues as is. But by Friday, we'll be hoping for a bit of change and a bit of rain, no doubt. We're here today to talk about the initiative around upfront information sharing, NPTN, and the proof of concept we've been doing with Lloyds and Connells. For those who don't know, LMS has been the center of bringing a number of organizations together to share information through a data exchange and orchestration network called NPTN, with Connells, Lloyds, Credas, Analytics, TM Group, Nova Strategy, and a bunch of other companies all involved in making sure we have a singular journey for our customers. And we're here to talk about Credas' role in that today. Obviously, it's been a long road getting here from an NPTN point of view and getting this proof of concept live. Credas were part of our original pilot back in 2024 and early 2025. So it's great to have you guys still with us. I want to hear about Credas today. I want to hear about the role you guys are playing, not just in the proof of concept, but also more widely in digital home buying, if that's okay with you. So I'm going to start and hand over to you to talk to us about Credas, your journey, where you guys are at the moment, and about your digital home buying experience, if that's okay.
well, thank you. I think first of all, I'd just like to thank you guys as well at LMS for taking this project by the horn and going with it, because I think a lot of people, everyone in the industry wants to speed up the home buying process, and we all agree, but it needed someone to sort of grab it and take it. So we appreciate that. So yeah, Credas, we've been in the sector now since 2016. We're certified under the Digital Identity Trust framework as well for ID verification. And we accidentally fell into property back in 2016. We originally started as a right to work. But if we move on now, over the last 10 years, we are now the leading provider of AML and identity checks within the property and legal sector. So if you look at all of the checks or all of the houses that were sold last year, a Credas check would have been used in 60% of those cases.
Wow.
And I know it's crazy for a small Welsh firm, or what was a small Welsh firm. I've seen the business grow fourfold over the last 4 years. So it's been a ride, ups and downs with the property sector, as you know. But yeah, I'm just so glad now that we're seeing the fruits of the hard work. When we got into the property sector, it was all about speeding up the process for agents, lenders, conveyancers, but more importantly for the consumer, because it's the most stressful part. I think it's in the top 5 of the biggest stress you'll ever go through, and it shouldn't be. So hopefully, what you guys are doing with our help will sort all of that out.
We can only try, but can't we? You mentioned that you guys fell into property. Just talk me through how that happened.
So we started as a right to work company. So our previous holding company needed to onboard thousands of construction people. So they needed to ID them first of all. They also needed to collate their certification, and all of their insurance policies. So they employed a consultant and said, solve this for us, because we can't have everyone traveling and posting things and whatnot. And then he built a proof of concept, showed it back to the business, and then we were like, okay, I think this could be used for quite a few different things. And then going through the home buying process ourselves and having to drive into the agent or to drive into the conveyancer or to take your ID into the bank multiple times within the journey, it was clear that there was, a gap in the industry. And then COVID happened. And that obviously sped everything up. People had kind of heard of digital ID, I think, before COVID. And then when COVID did happen and we couldn't travel, it really picked up then during COVID. And I think now it's just expected. People think it's alien to have to go into a branch with your ID documents in hand these days, which is great. Saving shed loads of time with all involved, really. So yeah, I think it was just a bit of like, oh, this could be used elsewhere. And then now we're the leading provider within the sector.
It's interesting how you refer back to COVID. I feel like it was a real turning point for not just this industry, but everyone kind of looking towards digital technologies and actually forcing the envelope a little bit about how we need to work differently and be different. The amount of innovation that's been spawned out of such devastation has been truly remarkable as we've kind of all rallied around the need for change. So we will look back at that kind of COVID point as a real kind of turning point for our industry, I think. But we are still faced with a number of challenges in what we're trying to achieve. And it's so nice to be working across so many different businesses and all working towards the same thing, but we can't ignore the challenges still facing us. So I'm going to move on to our next question, which is, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges still holding us back in the home buying and selling process today?
I think, to be honest with you, I'm quite annoyed at the sector because, not individuals or companies, but over the years, we've managed to digitalize most things, from the property searches to your ID verification to risk assessments, to e-signatures. There's been a lot of digitalization. Well, what I found challenging is knitting all of those together. And amongst that digitalization, you would assume that the process of buying a house would have actually reduced in time, but it hasn't. It's increased. So sometimes I just think, like, I just don't get it. We've got all of these tools available to us now, and why is it still taking over 12 weeks? So I think 16 weeks is the average at the minute in the sector to complete on a house, when in some European countries they can get it done within a week or so. So for me, it's the time that it takes, and the roller coaster that consumers go through during that time. The fact that you can get almost right the way up to the last minute, and then the home buyer or home seller can pull out is just ridiculous, and it's really expensive. If you've paid for surveys and this, that, and the other, it's expensive. But also for us, that the work in the sector, for agents, for conveyancers, for lenders, it costs us a lot of money. And then for that property to fall through, or for the time it takes, it's frustrating at times, I'd say.
You're not wrong, and the knitting together is a really, really interesting point. I think that's where NPTNs try to kind of support the industry where we can do. So much time and effort has been spent as each individual actor has tried to digitize and improve their process for the customer. And the nice thing about this is, from my point of view anyway, everyone's got the customer at heart. So you've got people trying to improve their onboarding journeys, or speed to offer might be one of those things, or the automation of certain processes, or even kind of things like case updates and stuff going back to the consumer throughout the journey. Everyone's trying to improve the customer experience. Everyone's trying to put them in the heart of what they do, but doing it in isolation is kind of where their problem lies. So Novus Consulting, one of our partners, been working in NPTN and part of the proof of concept, talk about the difference between kind of vertical digital integration and horizontal digital integration. And I think where the market is now moving is that horizontal spec. So where one partner can move and work with the other ones. But you're absolutely not wrong. It takes a long period of time, as we know, despite the hundreds of millions of pounds that we invested the last few years to improve those individual processes. Cancellation rates are still at the highest, I think above 30%. We're seeing about 170, 100 to 180 days being the average time to complete. It's nearly 6 months. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. We've got the OPDA have just done their second customer survey, which talk about one in, I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I think it was about 40% of people said they will really struggle to move again unless they absolutely have to, because of the stress to put them under. So
it's traumatizing.
It is.
And you talk about the customer and us all wanting to do the best for the customer. We are the customers as well. Most of us have gone through this process at least once, if not multiple times, and we've realized, how it is traumatizing, like how traumatizing purchasing or selling a house can be. But because we've all lived through that process, we're all on the same hymn sheet in that we want to, improve it. And I think having the best in class, at each section of the journey come together and knit together, like what you guys have done with this project, I think is great.
Thanks. We talk about kind of the digital identity trust framework before. Obviously, an ID and AML is one of those processes which obviously gets repeated throughout the journey, as we know it does. But obviously, there's been a huge groundswell towards that kind of verify once type of process.
Exactly.
Just talk to me about Credas' role in that and how you guys are preparing your products for the future around that kind of verify once principle.
Yeah. So you're right. I think in the process of purchasing a home, you can verify your ID up to 5 times. So it could be a buying agent, your selling agent, your conveyancer, your mortgage broker, and your lender. And again, being the leading provider in the sector, quite often the consumer will do it more than once with Credas, which is annoying. So what we've been working on over the last couple of years is the wallet. So what the wallet will enable consumers to do is at first point, be that usually the mortgage broker or the agent, they'll verify their ID and then they'll have the ability to share that with whomever they please. So they can push it up, the process with whomever they want, because at the end of the day, they own the data, they're the consumer. And also as well, allowing companies to share that data amongst them. So, we've got quite a lot of off-the-shelf products and off-the-shelf checks that work specifically for, the property sector. But there are different levels of checks as well. So what an agent might need to do versus what a conveyancer might need to do are completely different. Well, the foundations are the same. The AML foundations are there. So verify someone's identity, verify that they were live and present, confirm their address, mortality, and their PEP and sanction status. But then the conveyancer, for example, to get to a safe harbour standard, might need 2 linking documents to the property, source of funds, so there's different things that need to be done. But obviously with the recent announcement as well, I think, what we're looking at is getting a lot of that up front, which is what they do in other countries. And whilst it might be short-term pain for the consumer, hopefully it'll be long-term gain, that they'll be able to provide all of that information up front, and then it should be able to speed the process on even further.
So we've gone quite topical, the MHCLG consultation response, and you're absolutely right. It does talk about a lot of that information coming up front. Let me understand Credas' roadmap and how you guys are preparing yourselves, your customers for that upfront information journey and that verify once process. So the digital wallet is a big part of that. What does your roadmap look like? When can we see this product in the market? Obviously, it looks like it's going to be a consumer consented product, so the consumer's in charge of the consent. We'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so effectively, we've got everything that we need already to be able to bring this to the market. It works, it's ready. We have some customers already using it. So it's just fine lining and tweaking it to make sure that it does match the sort of regulations or rules when they do come out. So once the consultation is done and we absolutely know exactly, it sounds silly, but we need to know exactly what an AML check is, right? Mm-hmm. Because different people look at AML in different ways. Some agents might just verify address and PEPs and sanctions, and others will want a liveness and a biometric. And then when it comes to upfront information, there's been so many iterations of upfront information, material information. So it's all there and consumable and ready now. We're just going to tweak it as we go along to make sure that it matches the rules and regs.
It's been interesting that obviously the consultation came out, like we're recording this on the 22nd of June, for anyone who might be interested. So obviously everyone's still kind of reviewing what's come out and looking at the detail. Arguably, there's probably a lack of detail in that consultation response. Some is open to interpretation. We know that upfront information is going to be some level of mandation or some level of kind of enforcement moving forward, which is great. Probably stops going as far as what that looks like, to your point.
Yeah.
In the event you guys got everything you ever wanted as an ID provider, AML provider, what would that mandation look like? Would it be everyone working towards safe harbour from the first time a customer walks through the front door? What would that look like for you?
I think so, yeah. So if we had safe harbour standard from the first time an ID check was done, then it can be used right the way up then, so from the agents, like I said, right the way up to the lender. So I think, and there's been quite a lot of consultations, especially over the last 12 months. And I think as much as we can get done in the early days, which meet the criteria for the whole transaction, the better. And like I said, I realize that from a consumer's point of view it's a lot of work. There's some of for example, the upfront information question is a lengthy. They require a lot of evidence, and but at the end of the day, if you're serious about selling a house, this is the process you're going to have to go through.
Yep.
And you're going to have to go through it, whether it's upfront or throughout the, however many weeks it's going to take to sell the property. So yeah, I think from our point of view, it would be lovely just to have a standard, usually people hate standards and regulations, but if we know exactly what we need, and we can get that up front, then we can speed this process up, because there's no questions and no redoing of bits as we go through the process.
I love to put my conveyancer hat on here, and I say that quite loosely. Obviously, never done that job before, but working with conveyancers as much as I do, for me, they're the ones that obviously carry a lot of the risk in this process. Everyone looks to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. If I'm a conveyancer and I'm hearing about a single ID check, a reusable ID check throughout a journey that's customer consented, what fears should I have? Is there a compliance issue I need to worry about? Do things need to change within my operating model to allow for this to happen, or is it part and parcel of what's happening today already?
I think that's a really good question, and it really depends on your risk appetite, which is always the answer that everyone goes with. But it really does. I work with conveyancers that do a lot of digging, especially when it comes to like source of funds. So if one of the sources is a gift from the bank of mum and dad, then they're doing a source of funds and an AML on mum and dad, and they just keep going and keep going. And then you'll have other conveyancers which just do the bare minimum, for the legal framework. And a lot of it actually is dependent on reputational risk as well.
Mm-hmm.
And an example of that is it's not in the legislation to do adverse media. It's in the legislation to run PEPs and sanction checks. But a lot of, especially the top conveyancers, will do an adverse media check to make sure that they're not dealing with anyone that might compromise their reputation. So I don't think conveyancers need to worry, because all of the information that they need and all of the checks that they need to do are absolutely available. And the way we've built the system is to basically land and expand. So if an AML check hits the desk of a conveyancer and they look at it and go, well, actually we need more, it's simply about topping up. So add in the additional source of funds information or the linking documents to the property or the TA forms, whatever it might be. So it's all about building on that foundation if we can't get the foundation at the very beginning of the property transaction.
Perfect. Now, before I get back into the wider initiative and the proof of concept, just one more Credas question about maybe some other exciting products and services we might see you guys releasing over the next sort of 12 months or so. QES on your roadmap? I'm just genuinely curious about the future of Credas, really.
QES is there, and I think he'll be a big part of this as well. We discussed offline about the lenders and the banks, being really excited about this project. And I think in order for it to go as far as the lenders, QES is a key ingredient. So we are actually scoping it. We've been scoping it for a little while, but we've been again waiting to see exactly what the rules and regulations and what the industry want as well. So we probably won't be launching QES until the back end of the year, if not Q1 next year, because we want to get it right. So yeah, QES is definitely there. And for the next sort of 12 months, we're just concentrating on polishing the products, because like I said, they're already there. So we just want to polish and tweak them to match the regulations and the advice as it comes out, because it quite often does change as well. If you look at, for example, the digital trust framework, that originally was started for right to work and right to rent checks. And then back a couple of months ago, HMT announced that if you're going to use a digital identity provider for AML, they need to be registered on the digital identity trust framework. So it's evolving. And it's changing all of the time. So all of the products are there, and our concentration for the rest of the year and the beginning of next year, other than the QES, is to polish and amend what we have to make sure it meets the criteria, which right now it does. But like I said, it's changing all the time. So
it is an interesting space, actually. As an outside looking into the digital identity trust framework, it's probably moved and changed more than any other part of the process over the last 12 months. Every time I turn around and look at it again, it's like, oh, right, that's tweaked. That's different now. Exactly. Must be tough to keep on top of it.
It is, but we're in the right rooms, you know, and we're sat at the right table, so we do get advance notice of these things, and the way our product is built in the background, you know, without putting the dev guys and the product guys to thing, it is literally a tick box exercise. It's really configurable. So, you know, if they bring in to say, right, in order to buy a house, you need a swimming certificate, you know, it's literally just a tick box exercise in the background for us. So yeah, you know, we're agile. So for example, with the right to rent legislation that came out last year, saying that you needed to do a sanction check on landlords and tenants, we literally ticked the box and launched it about 6 months before. We launched it, I think it was something was said on one day of the week, and literally within 48 hours we had the product ready, because, you know, the system's so agile and configurable in the background. And it was the same with the director checks for Companies House as well. We were the first to market with that, simply because of how we've built the foundation of the product. So shout out to the product guys and the dev guys as well.
So they're probably got a cold sweat thinking about this. I've got to change things within 48 hours moving forward. This expectations been set.
No, it's literally we have all of the foundations there, so we can collect any documentation. You know, we can verify ID documents from around the world. So because, you know, we accidentally fell into property, but so early on, you know, before digital AML was a thing, before COVID, as we mentioned, we've literally built it with property and legal in mind. So it's easy for us, I suppose. No, I won't say it's easy, because the dev and product guys like, it's not that easy. We've got to test it. We've got to do this.
You've got to set yourself up for that kind of way of working, don't you? It's something that LMS went through for a long period of time, where, you know, the product and dev guys here went through the same journey, and now, you know, the release of these things is much easier than it was 10 years ago, because that agile way of working, the right tech and the right foundations are in place, and it's hard work getting to that point. You know, it's very time consuming, very expensive, but when you've got the right guys there in the product and dev teams that you can give a good ideas to and make sure that the business requirements are met, and moving quite quickly it's fundamental to the work that we do, right? You will fall behind quite quickly if you can't do these things, because simply the technology and the interest in this part of the process now is just phenomenal. I mean, the MHCLG consultation response, what we're doing in the OPDA and CFIT and Project 28 and all these wonderful things, it just means the light's being shone on this problem. And we say all the time, it's not a technology problem anymore. It's configuration. Technology there exists, enough people adopting the technologies and kind of moving together and working together. But when you invite that pressure, the pressure's there, so you have to respond to the market, right? And if you can't do so, then you fall behind.
Yep, and we're into the spotlight to make it work.
Absolutely, I don't feel that pressure every day, I promise you. So back to obviously the proof of concept, the initiative. From your point of view and from Credas' point of view, what excites you the most about being as part of a project like this?
I think it is literally, you know, everyone that works in the sector, the best in class, working together, for the greater good. Which sounds really corny, but I'll take you back to, I've purchased a house. Most people have purchased or moved a home. It's really painful. So for us, it's the chance to really make a mark and change the process, and speed it up for all of the organisations involved, but more importantly for the consumer. So for us, it's just working with the best in class, and us all coming together and making it happen. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm more excited from a consumer point of view that something's being done, to be honest. And it's great working with you guys and everyone else that's been involved in the process. So yeah, hopefully what we'll be able to do is speed it all up and make it less painful for everyone.
Well, we're only hoping, as the needs of our customers need to change, we need to make sure we change along with them. I think we're kind of nearly half of all customers now are digitally native, and we've got a huge influx of first-time buyers entering the market as always, which is wonderful to see. But their expectations are a digital connected process, and we have to make sure we deliver one. So whether you kind of consider home buying broken or just not fit for purpose, we know we can improve it, right? Exactly. And we've all got one thing in common, really, when it comes down to it. Most of our monies and stuff that we do as businesses, we all pay back end on most of this are anyway. And it's kind of losing 30% of your pipeline all the time is not in anyone's best interest. So I'm all for customer first. That experience will generate better customer outcomes, which will in turn benefit us all. So Quite an exciting time. And the last 2 or 3 years of my life being involved in NPTN, and working with companies like yourselves, it's been nice to see actually our driving force behind this is not necessarily commerciality, but better outcomes, which leads to better results for us all, which is really, really cool.
Absolutely. And I speak to property professionals all day, day in, day out, exactly like you do. And everyone wants to improve the process. No one says, oh, actually, I love it that it takes, 4 to 6 months to buy a house. Everyone, we're all on the same hymn sheet. So this project is simply just bringing us all together to make it work.
What's going to stop us then, in your mind, Rhian? So we've got some good people and wide industry adoption. It's obviously got the limelight that we're looking for. Customers want this. What's going to stop these changes being successful and actually us implementing a new process, whether it's this process or an iteration of this or something different? But in terms of industry change, what's going to stop us moving to the next step as an industry, you think?
I think it's probably going to be legislation. So legislation can be a great thing, but it can also be not a bad thing, but it's how you interpret it. I think the thing that might stop us is we need to make sure that the legislation is clear on what evidence you need to gather, what questions you need to ask and answer in order to purchase a property. Now, it sounds really simple, but for example, in the legislation, it says that you need to, forgive me, it's not the exact words, but it says something like you need to periodically check for PEPs and sanction changes. Well, what does that mean? What is periodically, or whatever word that they use? So I think the legislation and regulation just needs to be clear. This is what you need to buy a property. This is the evidence you need. These are the questions you need to fill out. These are the searches that need to happen. And just a clear and simple guidance and process, I think, from the government is what we need. And the rules need to be clear, I think, or clearer, because obviously one thing doesn't fit all. You're going to have the weird and wonderful properties that are built on gold mines or whatever, and they need to have different searches. Some are leased, some are not, and whatnot. But as much as we can to give a clear framework that everyone can work in, and I think if that happens, then we'll be good.
No, I agree. I think the other one for me is around adoption, making it easy. I think where these technologies have failed in the past, not just in home buying and selling, but across true industry change, is where it's not fit for purpose for everybody. It suits a certain narrative or a certain player, or the cost of adoption is too great, or the top cost of internal change is too great. We are desperately trying to find ways to make sure that we can utilize existing technologies and access points for all of our customers and the wider industry customers to access our technology and what we're trying to do here. But I do fear unless we can make adoption really easy and get that groundswell of everyone working in the same way, that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get people on a journey for us. So, adoption.
And you got to think about it. Where the sectors and the different companies and organisations we deal with are traditional. Lawyers have been around for however many hundreds of years. Banks, estate agents. So they are traditional in what they do. And sometimes when you take a technology platform to them, there's a bit of fear there as well. It's like, oh, you can't automate that. I suppose the fear that we're going through with AI as well at the minute. But what I found is once they try it and they see how easy it can be, then everyone is on board. But it's just getting to that stage where you said, like, people adopt it and organizations adopt it and use it and feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. We have a responsibility to make it easy, I think, as well, where we sit in tables, in all of us, the ones involved in this and the ones supplying technologies to the industry. We need to make sure we make it as easy as possible and support them through it. Yeah, we're supposed to be the tech leaders. They're supposed to be the law firm leaders, as an example, the lenders, the estate agencies. That's their job, and they're really fantastic at it. And we need to make sure we deliver technology that works for them as well. I'm going to ask you one more question before we go. And obviously, we spoke a lot about collaboration and being a key part of the transformation process here. What's your message to the wider industry about the importance of coming together to help drive real and lasting change?
I think there's enough room for everyone in the industry, and let's put egos aside. Whatever your system, platform, whatever your role is in this, everyone can be the best in class at what they do. And then when you knit it all together, you know, it can be wonderful. So I think, you know, you might have a technology that's really good at X and we have a technology that's good at Y. Let's just get together and make it the best thing for the consumer. For me, it's all consumer led, you know, whatever it takes to, from the consumer's point of view, to speed this up and make it easy. And yeah, just egos aside, let's, you know, like what we've been doing, let's get round a table and sort it out. Yeah. So this is
Like
the
it.
very
Take
beginning
action.
of sorting it. Yeah. Yeah. Time to execute.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Rhian Del-Valle from Credas, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure
No
talking to you.
worries.
Cheers.
Brilliant. And you. Thank you.